by the rivers of Babylon. Yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh,
Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome once again to the CHOKMAH BINAH channel, the D.C.B. My name is Uziel Lewy. I'm one of the teachers of Congregation D.C.B, located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. Our address is 382 Hamilton Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. Giving all glory, honor, and praises to the Supreme Intellect of the universe, Yehudah. We thank him for our lives, food, clothing, and shelter, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. It is a blessing to be here with all of you. I thank the Creator for my life and the life of Yisrael scattered in the four corners of the earth. Just want to give send our condolences in behalf of Congregation CHOKMAH BINAH to our sister Ikansi Musa, who lost her sister this past weekend. Praying that the Creator of heaven and earth would bring comfort to the family, bring comfort to her immediate family, to her children, her husband, her mother, all surviving family members, father, whoever might be alive. We pray that the Most High God be with them. Be with our sister Ikansi during this tough time. It's not easy to lose a sibling, especially a sibling that's still pretty young and healthy, and there's so many questions to be answered. But our heart and our condolences go out to your family, Sister Ikansi, and we pray that the Most High God, through time, will bring you and your family some healing. All glory to the Most High God. Hallelujah. We're going to move straight ahead, and today Nasik will be going over Psalm 72, but before he does that, he's going to do the usual. He's going to review last week's portion, which was Mishpatim, and I hope that everyone will give him a listening ear and be attentive to the words that are being spoken, and I pray that the Creator of heaven and earth be with us all. Without any further ado, I'll pass the mic over to one of my teachers and one of my mentors, even Nasik, Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Baruch Hashem. First of all, I'd like to give praises to the Supreme Intelligence of the universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. And due respect to the platform I'm on, the D.C.B channel platform, spiritual leader, Chief Prince Area of Saska, also to the host, Chief Uziel, to the princes, chiefs, rabbinate, Kohanim, Marine, brothers and sisters, visitors, I greet you all in the tongue of my forefathers. Shalom Aleichem, and early Shabbat Shalom. I'll be dealing with this particular section in the book we call Mishpatim, which means ordinances, sometimes translated as judgments, and it's a country of it's a lot of laws in there, civil laws, and the top Torah. This particular thing, portion starts in Exodus, the 21st chapter, first verse, and it goes to the 24th chapter, the 18th verse, for those that might want to read later on, for those things I haven't covered. And also, the normal Torah would be in the book of Jeremiah. That would be the book of Jeremiah, the 34th chapter, 8th verse, going to the 22nd verse, and then it would go back over to the 33rd chapter, the 25th to the 26th verse, those two verses there in the 33rd, just as a tradition to end on a good note, not basically a chronological order and when the Torah. But since the Shabbat, that's usually about 4 weeks out before the time of the season coming into the month of Aviv, we had the Shabbat known as Shabbat Shekelim. And Shekelim is just basically, well, today's term we'll say money or coins, but a shekel was actually a particular weight. And most times when you think of a shekel, you think of silver weight, but as opposed to gold. But and it's based on basically the shekel of the sanctuary, the half shekel that was given, and at the beginning when we left out of Egypt, for the county and also for the upkeep of the Mishkan, and later on it was used to keep up with the upkeep of the temple that Solomon had built. So that would be coming out of actually a portion that they read, which is key to say, but key to Sarah, and that'd be in the book of 2 Kings, 11th chapter, 17th verse, and it goes to the 12th chapter, 17th verse. Those that follow a Sephardic style of the Shabbat of Shekelim, but in Ashkenazim they would start only from the 12th chapter, first verse to 17th verse. So they both will conclude at the same spot, but just that the Sephardic, which is rare, tend to be a little longer than that of the Ashkenazim in this particular portion. All right, so, and both of those have something that normally do with the portion of Mishpatim. The normal Haftorah in the book of Jeremiah will be dealing with servitude, slaves, Hebrew servants. The next portion is actually for the Shabbat itself, but we'll be reading the Haftorah that most people that follow a particular tradition we read in the book of Kings, dealing with the upkeep of the house of the temple. And King Jehoash, who had in books you would see Jehoash. He was the king. He became the king on the throne at 7 years old, and he reigned for 40 years. Had a very short lifespan. Died at 47. Actually got assassinated at 47. But that's, like I said, well, like with those that I want to read more in the history of that is another story. But he did try to do reformation in his particular time, when time was a lot of upheaval. We also we're dealing with the Psalm 72. 72 is a unique psalm that aligns with this particular portion here, because more so than most psalms that will be used for particular portions that we read every week. Now, I like to bring our attention to certain aspects in the beginning from the last week's portion of Yithro. I'm only going to come from the 19th verse of the 20th chapter of Exodus before I get into the beginning of Mishpatim just a little bit. In the 19th chapter of the 20th verse, the 20th chapter, 19th verse, and the Lord said unto Moses, thus thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, ye yourself have seen that I have talked with you from heaven. You shall not make with me gods of silver or gods of gold. You shall not make unto you an altar. You shall not make unto you an altar of earth. Thou shalt. Let's go back on 20th verse. You shall not make with me gods of silver or gods of gold. You shall not make unto you an altar of earth that thou make unto me, and thou shalt sacrifice thereon the burnt offerings and thy peace offering and thy sheep and thy oxen in every place where I cause my name to be mentioned. I will come unto thee and bless thee. All right, so right here, an altar of earth thou shalt make unto me. So they tell you what kind of altar you want in the beginning. And it goes on, it says, and if thou make me an altar of stone, thou shalt not build it of hewn stone. For if thou lift up thy tool upon it, thou hast profaned it. Neither shalt thou go up by steps into my altar, that thy nakedness be not uncovered thereon. All right, so that's how that ends. Let's talk about a particular worship service. Now we go into this particular portion, and in the Hebrew, when it comes off in this particular portion, it says, "Where Ele HaMishpatim, Asher, Tasim, Lifnehem." So now, right now, and it said these are in the Hebrew. It says, and these are the statutes or the ordinance or the laws you should place before or set before them. So I'm gonna read it as most English books have. Now these are the ordinances which thou shalt set before them. All right. Now I just want to stop at that verse just a minute. And this is something to bring out more so with the teachers. We just had the revelation at Mount Sinai. We just heard the Creator speak what we refer to as the Decalogue. And the first of the Decalogue for us as Hebrews, those that followed, the Hebrew way of life, is I am. Anoki, Anoki, I am. Or I will, I am, in this case, with the Creator, who's addressing the people that's at the foot of the mountain. Now we heard those set of laws in 10, and then it made a big transition into worship. And then it said, and these are what you should place before, the things that's getting ready to follow. It was seen that something's out of place. Because if you're telling me about certain laws, thou shalt not, thou shalt, I have to acknowledge the Creator, I'm supposed to honor. And then all of a sudden, you're telling me a place you go straight to about how or worship, how altar should be made at the very basic area. You're not giving me any dimensions. You just tell me an altar. No dimensions, no instructions on how it really should look. It just either, made of earth or made of unhewn stones. And then we jump right into another set of laws that Moses is supposed to place. Wasn't he supposed to place the first one? Wasn't the first one supposed to be on some tablets? Then we get the first one on a set of tablets. So that would be something to discuss now. Why this big gap? And I say big gap in the sense that we came from a set of laws and treaties that's going to be written down. And some, as we get ready to follow in this particular portion, with instructions. And yet, in between that transition, it talk about a ritualistic thing without giving us how to do it ritualistically, which is the altar. Don't tell us how to build it. Just tell us if we make it, it should be an earth or unhewn stone. How large, how small. We don't have that right now. And we come into another set of laws at this particular point in time. So this is something to discuss more so with the teacher. I know I'm not going to be able to touch on it that much in this particular setting. And then the first thing it says, if thou buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. And if he come in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he be married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master give him a wife, and she bear him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out by himself. But if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free, then his master shall bring him unto God, and shall bring him to the door, or to the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an oar, and he shall serve him forever. Now, question. First, you bring him under guard, then you bring him onto the doorpost. How did that work? You going straight to the before the Creator before this, or you going before some people that would be your go-between to represent you before the Creator? You know, the priest or something. So that's something to discuss further. And then, why his ear got to be bored through? You know, and why at your doorpost? It seemed like if you brought him one place over here, couldn't the whole thing be done over there? Why it got to be done at this particular doorpost? So those are things, you know, you could, you know, discuss. Say, if I'm over here by God, and I said this is what I want to do. I got priests, judges, everybody, you know, testing that I'm plainly doing this without being forced to do this. And I really love my master and my children. And then you love your wife and your children and your master, then, and you rather be in bondage to a man because you can't take you know, the wife and the children with you, then what do that say about the Creator? And yet you was before the Creator first, before your ears bored through. So they say, well, do you have time to think in between this or what? So these are things you could, you know, bring about and, you know, rehatch over. And then you're serving for 6 years. You figure after you work for somebody for 6 years, you got an easy out to go free. All right. But that's one area. I'm not going to focus on that much now because it's just too much. And another thing I like to bring out, and if a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the men servants do. If she please not her master who hath espoused her to himself, then shall he let her be redeemed. To sell her unto a foreign people, he shall have no power, seeing he had dealt deceitfully with her. How did he deal deceitfully if the father sold her? What was the purpose of her sale? Was it just to be the maid, or potentially to be a wife for either the master or the master's son? Which goes in here saying, if he espouse her unto a son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. And if he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her conjugal rights shall not be diminished. And if he do not these 3 things unto her, then she shall go out for nothing without money. So this is something. All right. So this is another thing. Most men are very close to their daughter. I know I'm close to my daughter. Very close to my daughter. And you know, I'm close. I love my sons, but you worry about your daughter more because your daughter is going to be part of somebody else's household. And one of the things that we learn, you know, in this matter, is that it's rare, you know, that, you know, you want a good husband for your daughter. You hope your son pick a good wife, but you definitely want a good husband for your daughter. And one of the things that you will find, very few people in life, very few people, the husbands are really, really love their father-in-law, and vice versa. There's very few fathers really, really love their son-in-law like a real son. That's what made Jethro and Moses' relationship so paramount of a son and a son-in-law and a father. It was more relationship and bonding there. I know I have my son-in-law. I know I love my son-in-laws. I know my daughters, so I really love my son-in-laws. And that being said, I know a close friend of mine, you know, that's Cohen, and his son-in-law. I met him. Very good, very lovely brother. You know, and they had a strong, like a fatherly son bond, and that is rare. So now here's a woman that's sold into a situation. Why would a father sell his daughter or put in a situation like that? his wife see potential. And she's never called a servant. Only in English, we see the term servant, but it's called ama, which is, sort of like a maid, but for the sense of marrying and stuff to that area. That's why it's referred to as being deceitful later on. But these are some of the things that you could talk more so with your instructors, your various teachers of various congregations. And that's why we read a couple more of these laws here, and then I'm fast forward somewhat. 12th verse said, "He that smiteth a man so that he die shall surely be put to death. And if a man lie not in the way, but God cause him to come into his hand, and cause it to come to his hand, then I will appoint thee a place whither he may flee. And if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, thou shalt take him from my altar that he may die." So one thing, murder is never condemned. Now it seemed like he said that already. It was stated in the first 10. So why now? Because sometimes a person was taken and slain, but it wasn't an intentional slaying. And what we call an accident. Maybe you were working on something fell down and crushed him. All right, so it wasn't intentional. We get more details of it later on in the book. Whereas you say, okay, why would he have to flee? And we know later on in the book, those that study, that it was cities of refuge that was appointed for a person that is a manslayer to flee there. But I want to just have you keep those areas in mind there, because since we talk about thou shalt not murder, and most people say thou shalt not kill, but don't use the word kill in the commandments in the Decalogue. You use the word, haro. I mean, don't use the word, but use the word for murder in the Hebrew, and that's a difference between killing and a murder. And but then most people, when they see it in the English, they just think thou shalt not kill. But that's not true, because you eat flesh, you eat meat. So it goes on to talk about respect to parents, kidnapping, cursing your parents, laws of assault. All right. I want to focus on the laws of assault for a minute. And then before we move on, I just want to focus on the 18th verse. And it says, if men contend, if men contend and one smite the other with a stone or with his fist, and he died not, but keep his bed, if he rise again and walk abroad upon a staff, then shall he that smote him be quit. Quit in this old English means to acquitted, be exonerated. From what? Only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and he shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. Now, we have laws right here. Fighting, when men get to fighting, or anybody get to fighting, we just use the thing of men, because mostly in ancient times, women didn't get into a real all-out brawl to that degree. But men usually go to the brawl, and men usually go to really put damage on whoever they're fighting. And now you hit a guy, and you didn't think you hit him that hard, but you hit him hard enough, he fell down and bumped his head. Now he's in a coma. If he died, that's a murder, because your intent was to incapacitate him. If he don't die, then it's not a murder. So now what's unusual, which reason I want to focus on that particular verse, because the word they use for the payment for his lost time, they use the phrase rock sheep toe. Rock sheep toe. The root of sheep toe is Shabbat. So you got to say, well, what do the Shabbat have to do with recovery. Because if you paying him for the time that he missed out of work, do you work on Shabbat? We're not supposed to. So then why would I pay him, for something, a recovery, and he used the term for Shabbat, when you should say, well, something from Rapha, which means to be healed, something to deal with healing. Why do you use that particular term? Why do you refer to it as Shabbat? This, you could discuss more so, but I'm just going to throw a few little things on this particular point here. Is that we're told to work 6 days and do all our work, and cease from our work on the Shabbat, like the Creator ceased in the book of Genesis. So now, if we do all our work, can you do all the work you're going to ever do in 6 days? So what are you doing? When the commandments we just left said, Zakor et Yom HaShabbat, remember the Shabbat. Be strong about remembering the Shabbat. Because the root word too is Zakor. The word, Zion, Kaf, Resh. It means to remember, but it also means a masculinity or male. And it's also a term for meaning a certain type of strength, manly strength. So if you're using that during those 6 days, what are you using it for? Mind you, memory, strength, masculine. What are you using it for? To build yourself up, to reach that day where you could be 100% committed to the worship of the Creator. That is one of your strong points there. So that would be one area that I would share. But like I said, you can discuss it with your various, teachers in the various congregations. But that'd be one area I'd like to share. That you work in 6 days, but everything you do in life is not going to be finished in 6 days. It's also going to be another 6 days to do something. But you working 6 days in preparation, be able to worship and stand before the Creator with your all. Because some people come to Shabbat beat down. So when this guy here was being paid for his recovery after he got hit, and they in a battle, but he got injured. The other guy didn't get injured. And the guy that injured him must make sure he's thoroughly healed. Suppose he don't want to use the doctor you recommend, since you're the one that hurt him. So there's a lot of different areas there. So when we look at those areas there, that's something to think about. And then as I go through, just in case I'll omit it, later I'm going to speak on it now. We're talking now about government, and we started with the least, the lowest part of the totem pole when we dealt with civil issues in the land. So the civil issues was addressing that of a servant, and saying not a stranger that's a servant first, but to address the Israelite that happened to be a servant. That's who we're addressing first, an Israelite that's in a servant. Now here we just left Egypt. So since we just left Egypt, what Israelite servants do we have at this particular point in time? Because this is coming right after the Decalogue. So we're basically talking about, 3 months so out of Egypt. And yet we don't have a Hebrew servant. So can you imagine, say, if you buy a Hebrew servant, who could I buy? You just as wealthy as I am wealthy. We left with everything we could borrow. I left with everything, we both left with what we could borrow. So we're not wanting for anything as far as money. We're not spending any money. So therefore, this law, when it's coming now, will seem kind of strange, because who's going to be selling themselves? Who's going to have to worry about their daughter at this point in time? So these laws and constitution is set up prior to a nation being firmly established. We come to Sinai to get a certain amount of laws, but then we got to get a certain type of civil laws. But between that, we got a thing about worship. And it's one of the things when it's this is one of the reasons too, when you talk about this particular portion, Mishpatim, that is so close behind that of building an altar. Traditionally, they figure the Bet Din, which is the high Hebrew courts, the major Hebrew courts, about 71 people, that they always supposed to be by the altar of God or the sanctuary. You know, when they have when they hold a serious court case. So they take it basically from this particular portion here, how close this is to the building of an altar. All right, so I just want to move on just a couple more, and we address other other things about beating slaves. So when they talk about beating slaves in our way of life, one of the strangest things about beating slaves is that today, most of us that work on jobs, especially in the big cities, we belong to a union. And the union is to protect the workers' rights. Well, this preceded no other culture in ancient history that we know of had a thing where workers' rights was protected. This is a novel thing where we talk about a union where people's rights are protected, the employees are protected. Your servant is protected. You don't even have authority on over your servant on Shabbat. So when we go into the book of Mishpatim, it states volumes, because today, most people in the South, in the southern region, different parts of the country, they don't have a union. And they've been trying to break up unions. And the unions mostly that do exist are getting weaker and weaker. And so the government tried to take over where the unions was failing. So, but the thing is that human rights was established in this particular portion. And that's what you need to have a nation. You got to be able to consider the human rights. All right, the right of the employee and every citizen within your nation. So this is a marvel thing. So and I'm just going to just fast forward just a little bit because just so much talk about in here. But before I leave, I like to speak on this one thing when it comes to the area of the 26th verse of the same chapter. Oh well, no, I better go a little bit further. I want to speak on the part where all right, let's tell you. Let me see. Let me go down. Maybe I went too far. A little bit too far here. All right. Well, let me look at the 23rd verse of this 21st chapter, and it says, "But if any man harm, but any harm follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, strike for strike." Now, first it started talking about the woman that's pregnant and men fighting together and she get injured. But I'm not going to focus on the details on that. I did it when I spoke on this particular portion before. But I want to reiterate on this part about what they commonly call in the Latin term lex talionis, which is a law of the claw or the talons. Ancient world, they believe in that. You take one guy's eye, your eye got to go. You know, you cut one guy's arm off, your arm got to go. With us, it didn't exist like that. But in the ancient world, in the Peshat, which it means the simple plain meaning, it did exist. And that going by traditional viewpoints, and even halakhically or rabbinic viewpoints, it's always meant compensation. And one of the areas is this. Our thing was in our law, Sadek, Teodot, justice, pursue. So if you got one eye and another guy got two eyes, and you knock that guy one eye out, then he knocks your eye out by the lex talionis. So now you are fully blind because you only had one eye. And he knocked that one eye that you used to see out. And the other guy had two eyes, so he just half blind. So now, where is the fairness there? Because you only made this guy, even though he knocked his eye out, you only made him half blind. Whereas this other guy, he only had one eye to begin with. So now you made him fully blind. So now you made this guy more handicapped than you became handicapped. So it's that kind of thing about where the compensation, where the justice is. Because how can I make you be just like me in this area? Or here it is, I'm an artist. So I draw with my hands. And here it is that you was a wealthy individual. So you don't have to do any work. You got so many servants, you just sit back and give orders. And all of a sudden you cause me to lose a hand. But I'm an artist. I need my hands for my occupation. You losing your hand will not do anything to your occupation. So then where's the justice at? Me taking your hand off, because I lost my hand, but I still can't work because that's my artistic hand. You know, that's the hand I draw with. That's the hand I make my money with. So we use other things where it says the life of the blood of every beast, man's life is required. So that means we don't eat meat because we got to slay them? So for us, when we look in the book for the nation of Israel, it's about seeking a certain type of compensation. And you notice they talk about all these different actions that can happen to the body except slaying an individual, except for the murder. That one, you murder someone, you out, you're dead. If it was unintentionally you killed somebody, you in the city of refuge to the high priest die, and most of them be pretty healthy. So these things I want to bring out about, because a lot of people think that when they read this in the book say eye for eye, tooth for tooth, and they believe in that. But it wasn't employed like that because we are told to look for justice. A just weight and a just balance is God's delight. But in the ancient world, that's exactly what it meant, you know, amongst most ancient cultures. So I'm gonna move on from that, and I just want to bring up two more points in here before I move on. In reference to, well, you know, we got bestiality and all that involved, but we got theft, oxens, pits, damages, fire, seduction, borrow. You talked about certain types of lenders here. You got four types of lenders, borrowers rather, that's in Torah. But I'm just going to just give you an example of two right now. One, a person borrows, a guardians. Let's deal with guardians. I'm sorry. Let me deal with guardians. The guardians. I don't want to deal with the borrowers yet. Let's deal with the guardians. All right. You got several types of guardians. One, a person going out of town, and he said, "Look, I need you to look after my dog, man, over in the house, man, because I got to take a trip. So could you look out for my dog, feed him, make sure he's okay while I'm out of town for a few days?" Okay, all right. That's one type of guardian, because I'm looking out for my neighbor's dog. All right, and so now if they say I'm looking out for the neighbor dog and I'm guarding him, then I'm doing a favor for my neighbor, I'm not doing a favor for myself. Then let's switch it to a borrowing, where something might be for yourself. All right. I'm going to borrow my neighbor's tractor because I got some work to do. All right. So now you're more responsible in that sense because you're borrowing it not to service and help your neighbor, but you're doing something to do something for yourself. So you got different tangents in the law about borrowing, about guarding. So all this is in this particular portion here. And about lending when you're responsible, when you're not responsible, about enticing a maid and all that kind of stuff is here. But what this particular portion of the books is that it makes everyone in the nation responsible. Everyone. When you have a society when only certain people are responsible and other people are not responsible, then you have a chaotic and unjust society. Then I'm going to skip over here. We got the 3 established times in the year that we're supposed to observe. We got the sabbatical year. In the 24th chapter, I'm going to skip way until the last 24th. We know automatically, it goes back in the 24th chapter, 24/7. And what I like about the 24/7, and he took the books of the covenant and read in the hearing of the people, and they said, all that the Lord has spoken, we will do and obey. Well, in the Hebrew, it's just the reverse. All we will do and we will hear. Now I say with Nishama, that means that we will do and we will hear. That's the only part in scriptures that we actually say we're going to do something and we'll hear it later. And who signs and then make an agreement without looking at the fine print? And they're going to sign a dotted line. So one of the things we learn from that is that if you love and respect somebody's strong enough, deep enough, and you know that they're doing stuff for your good, then the small details don't matter. The details only matter when you don't think you have a lack of love and a lack of assurance that they're doing it for your good. So that's why in this particular portion, so it goes back to the very beginning of the Mount Torah, the receiving of the commandments. And then I like to pick up right here. I'll finish off right here for a moment. Just something for people to go back over. In the 12th verse of the 24th chapter. And the Lord said unto Moses, come up to me unto the mount, and be there. And I will give thee the tables of stone and the law and the commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. And Moses rose up, and Joshua's minister, and Moses went up into the mount of God. And unto the elders he said, tarry ye here for us. All right, so right then and there that we're told right now, this is when Moses getting ready to go up. They get the command, the law, because we don't want to hear anything from the Creator earlier. But I'm gonna back up, just throw one little curve in here. All right, I'm going to go back to the 18th chapter, 21st chapter, 18th verse. One little curve for you to consider. All right. Let me see, was it 21st, was it 18, 19? Let me see if I read this one. Oh, what's it there? Write it down. 21. One moment here. All right, all right. when we look back up here in the 7th verse of the 24th chapter, and it said, and he took the book of the covenant and read it in the hearing of the people. And he said, all that the Lord has spoken, that we will do. Well, we got to find out, so are we reading about what we're going to get later? Or what book Moses had, that he read out at this particular time? So sometimes when we follow closely in the book, we got to say, well, what event is he actually talking about at the time? So those are some of the takeaways in dealing with this here particular book of the law. And then we find out also that when God had made the revelation that the cloud was on the mountain for 7 days, 6 days, 7 days, I think. Matter of fact, might as well read it, what it says. Cloud on the mountain, 4 days. All right, it said, the Lord abode upon Mount Sinai, just at 16th verse. The glory of the Lord abode upon Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And the 7th day, he called to Moses out of the midst of the cloud. So that's how long that glory of the cloud, that event lasted that long. So there's a lot of stuff going on here that, it's not a simple read, so to speak. And law is never really a simple read, as we say, because one of the things I was talking with my son, and he brought out a marvelous point about judges. We was discussing Mishpatim and what a judge is supposed to do. And one of the points I like that he brought out was that a judge, if you're going to be a judge, you should be at least have a few languages under your belt. We just say bilingual today, but that's only 2. But you should, if you're going to be a judge, you should have several languages on the belt. And the reason that in the rabbinic law, that's usually what a judge is supposed to be able to do anyway, to have more than one language on his belt. And the reason for that is that you must be able to understand exactly what the litigants is talking about. Suppose they only know how to speak in another language. Then do you know how that word is applied in that particular language? We know in Hebrew, some words I'm gonna give you a simple word, the word ma. Ma means what, but it also means how. It could be used in the sense of how. We use it in a prayer on the regular when we say ma tovu, how goodly. We use that in the Hebrew all the time. All right. And speaking on that, before I go to the Psalms, that we got the book of Yithro, the Sidra Yithro, Jethro, is actually the 17th Sidra, counted from Bereshit to the Mishpatim and Torah. It's the 17th Sidra. This here, the book of Mishpatim is basically the 18th Sidra, if you count how many Sidros we was doing. And so this is actually the 18th. So you figure 17 is a number for the word good, because we know our Hebrew letters have a numerical value. So the word good is tov, wah, bet. That's number 17. But then the 18th is spelled chai. Chai is the number 18. But we write it yod-hate for 18. But turning around backwards, it's the same number chai, which means life. So that means right then and there that it's good. You're only going to have a real good life. This analogy that some people might make, that from Yithro, when God gave us that revelation at Mount Sinai, that we only going to have a good life, by combining those two, what we learned at Mount Torah and how we apply it in the land. So before that, we're going to go straight into the book of Psalms, the 72nd chapter, and see what's going on with that. 17th 72nd chapter of Psalms.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
We are in the 72nd chapter of the book of Psalms. Psalm 72. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
A psalm of Solomon. Give the king thy judgments, O God, and thy righteousness unto the king's son.
Hold on right there before we go further. I got to get a Hebrew expression here, because the way it's coming in English, it says, when it starts off in there, it's in the 77, it just says, Lishlomo. I mean, so here it is, when we look at it, and as we just read, in some books, we just say, of Solomon, but Lishlomo means for or to Solomon. So now when we look at that, it's not Solomon writing this. It's a message to Solomon, who was the wisest man to ever live. And that's what makes, and so if he's a wise man to ever live, we're going to find out what this message come, because now the book of the 72nd Psalm actually concludes the second book of Psalms, as it's divided in 5 different sections. All right, so let's see, and this is coming from his father, which we're going to find out later on. Continue, second verse.
Verse 2, it reads, that he may judge thy people with righteousness and thy poor with justice. Let the mountains bear peace to the people, and the hills through righteousness.
Hold right there. So, David wanted to secure his legacy. We just got through talking about laws and judgments. We know, righteousness exalts a nation, and sin is a reproach to any people. So now, when David want to make sure that when I leave the throne, that this guy that's coming behind me will not mess up what I set up. So, and I'm going to show him how to do a great thing. And here, so David telling him about, we're going to deal with laws and stuff of that nature. A king, we got in the book of Deuteronomy, we got the laws for the king, but we don't have no instruction for the king. So that's the difference. We got the laws, what the king shouldn't do, what he should not do, what he can't do, who should be the king. So we got those tenets in the book of Deuteronomy. But right here, did the king get any instructions? So David making sure that I'm going to leave some instructions for my son to be on the throne, to keep this thing moving properly. And which is ironic, because judgment and justice was one of the platforms that his other son, Absalom, used to try to overthrow his father. David judged one time against himself. David then wasn't judging anymore after that. But he understood that judgment is great, and it secures a nation. And Solomon, we understand as King Solomon himself, that when the Creator visited him in a dream and asked him what he want, he said, I want a wise and understanding heart to judge such a wise and understanding people. This is where he got it from. This is how he knew what to ask for. Because the security and Israel was at the greatest height that they ever been in King Solomon's time. No other king had Israel, on that height that Solomon had, where you had 40 years of peace. But let's read a little bit further. Let's look at some of this instruction that a father given to his son.
Verse 4, may he judge the poor of the people and save the children of the needy and crush the oppressor.
Oh, hold it. That means right in there, everybody got to get should have access to his hearing. Everybody should be able to have their day in court, to be able to be heard out. We read the most famous thing that Solomon was noted for when he held court was when the two harlots had the baby. One baby died at the night, and the other one lived, and nobody being around but the two harlots. And they wound up bringing their case to King Solomon. You would think it's enough judges in the land that's already established centuries ago that they could have brought that case to. Why all of a sudden it came straight to King Solomon? And then you always got to ask, did they have an appointment? Or was it priority? So there's just so much stuff that went on with that, but that's another episode. But the message is that they still had access to the king over this matter. And Solomon, with his wisdom, displayed who was the rightful mother of the child. Now, we don't know what follows after that, after that case, but everybody recognized his wisdom and they feared him. So his wisdom was declared and his wisdom was shown, but it was shown in a matter of judgment. And didn't Moses say at the end of time, he said, when people hear such laws and statutes as these, they will say, surely this is a wise and understanding people. Everybody, like justice, but usually they want it for themselves, but everybody was looking for justice. All right, let's read a little bit further.
Verse 5, it reads, they shall fear thee while the sun endureth, and so long as the moon throughout all generations. He come down like rain upon the mound grass, as showers that water the earth. In his days let the righteous flourish, and abundance of peace, till the moon be no more. May he have dominion also from sea to sea, and from the river unto the ends of the earth. Let them that dwell in the wilderness bow before him, and his enemies lick the dust. The kings of Tarshish and of the isles shall render tribute. The kings of Sheba and Seba shall offer gifts.
Well, we've seen this happen. We've seen this happen with Solomon, in his time. We've seen that happen in his time. But David didn't live to see that. But he prophesied that and tell him because of how righteous you'll be running your kingdom. So it shows you that what makes a good leader is how well you pursue justice and be able to administer justice and give righteous justice, righteous judgment from the people. All right, but let's go a little bit further.
Verse 5. It read verse 11. Verse 11.
Right.
Yea, all kings shall prostrate themselves before him. All nations shall serve him. For he will deliver the needy when he crieth, the poor also and him that have no helper. He will have pity on the poor and needy, and the souls of the needy he will save.
Hold right there. All right. One of the things that in America more often, when we talk about our way of life and law, is that if you're wealthy enough, you could get out of anything, in America. The lawyers, defense attorney or prosecutor, and the judge are working and obligated to the court. So if your defense attorney and the prosecuting attorney and the judge is all working for the court, then who is really for you? And that, and so that's different from the way it's described here. And also it's different how the Creator bringing this law to Moses by how to administer a just society, a righteous society. So let's pick it up a little bit more.
Verse 14, it reads, He will redeem their soul from oppression and violence, and precious will their blood be in his sight, that they may live, and that he may give them of the gold of Sheba, that they may pray for him continually, yea, bless him all the day.
Hold right there, hold right there. All right, this is very important. Most people and most societies don't pray for their leader. They say, man, this guy been there too long. It's time for him to leave up out of here. I wish the administration is over with. Because, I mean, it's been there too long already. But if a leader is concerned with the people and not himself, then the people going to pray for his health. If you're concerned with the people. You see these old movies and stuff like that, and they say, long live the king, long live the king. Next thing you know, down with the king, down with the king. All right. It's when justice is being administered righteously, everybody in the nation lives well. It has some sayings that they said the stones in Jerusalem was like silver, because everybody living well, everybody doing good. Anytime you got an era where people are doing great, they don't want that to change. When they're in a state of peace and tranquility, they don't want that to change. It's when it changes, that's when you're going to start to have a ripple and a chaotic effect. Let's read a little bit further. Let's see this instruction of a father giving his son.
Verse 16, it reads, May he be as a rich cornfield and the land upon the top of the mountains. May his fruit rustle like Lebanon, and may thy blossom out of the city like grass of the earth. May his name endure forever. May his name be continued as long as the sun. May men also bless themselves by him. May all nations call him happy.
Hold right there. All right. One of the things, and just unique about the book of Kohelet as it opens up, Solomon's name is not mentioned in the book, in that book of Kohelet. That's the only out of the three books that's attributed to him: Proverbs, Ecclesiastics, and the Song of Songs. Only in the book of Kohelet, Solomon's name is not mentioned at all. But yet he's able to assemble people and give advice. So the thing is that when people, will bless themselves by him, they're going to say, I'm proud to say this is my leader. I'm proud. I want to be, is well received as King Solomon be, because of the way he do and treat his people. Because a great man is only great is when you care about other people. That's when you become great. When you care about other people and caring about the most lowest level of the people. Here we just started off in Mishpatim, and the first thing in Mishpatim is talking about a Hebrew servant. Why couldn't it be a Hittite servant? Basically not. Why couldn't it be an Egyptian servant? Why couldn't it be a Syrian servant? Well, we got to start up, and we had a mixed multitude there. So it ain't like we didn't have a mixed multitude amongst us, but it's talking about things could get so bad for an Israelite that he got to be sold. He said sold. He ain't kidnapped, he's being sold. He ain't volunteering selling himself, but he being sold by somebody else. Now that is, that the Lord has no respect to person. And this is what's coming to the nation as a whole. And David is trying to ingrain that in King Solomon. Let's finish this out.
Verse 18, it reads, Blessed be Yehovah God, the God of Yisrael, who only doeth wondrous things. And blessed be his glorious name forever. And let the whole earth be filled with this glory. Amen. Way amen. The prayers of David, the son of Jesse, are ended.
Hold right there. The 19th verse is what they say all the time, in the prayers in Shabbat. You know what I mean? You know, blessed be the glory of it. Blessed be his glorious name forever and ever. And let all the earth be filled with his glory. Amen. What I mean? That's said every Shabbat. You know, every Shabbat is said. Just about every prayer. But I'm saying I just focus on the Shabbat itself. And then it says the prayer of David, the son of Jesse, are ended. That means not only he's teaching, but I'm not depending on you understanding everything I'm saying. I'm going to pray to God about this for you. How many people know what their parents prayed for them concerning them? But yet we got a thing here where David and Solomon know his father praying for him. Not only instructing him, but I'm praying that this be your MO. This be your characteristic. Shalom means peaceful. So I hope you got something out of what I said. I know I chopped it up a little bit, but and I left some stuff up there, quite a bit on there to discuss with various teachers. Any mistakes from my own, and leave a comment in the chat if there are anything that you didn't understand that I try to present. And if I can, I'll try to do a little better job in the future. If I can't, just forgive me. I'm just human. And I say Shalom Aleichem, Shabbat Shalom. All right. So. All right. So.